Welcome to For Your Amusement, a theme park podcast that aims to exhaustively evaluate the world's most popular theme park attractions to determine if they are world class. I'm Ryan Bergara.
I'm Byron Marin.
And for this episode's featured attraction, we infiltrate the First Order to discuss Rise of the Resistance in Disneyland, California and Disney's Hollywood Studios, Florida. And joining us today for our rendezvous at the Bergara is none other than Peter Sciretta and Kitra Remick from Ordinary Adventures. Thank you guys for joining us.
Hey, everybody.
Thank you. We're so excited.
Bright suns.
Bright suns, indeed. What do they say to when you say goodbye over there in Batu?
That is rising moons, I believe.
No, that's at nighttime. It's till the spire.
Oh, till the spire. Sorry.
Till the spires. We'll have to remember to say that at the end. For those of you listening that are wildly confused at that, maybe you haven't heard, but there is a native language on Batu, which is where Galaxy's Edge is situated in. And I believe Bright Suns is the greeting that people say to each other. Shane Madej says that to everybody when he walks into the office, Bright Suns. Now, I will say, when we have guests on this podcast, we ask them what ride they'd like to cover. And you guys chose Rise of the Resistance. Can you give a little background on why this ride is special to you and why you wanted to talk about it?
We both love Star Wars. Our first date was actually at Star Wars Celebration in... What year was that? I don't know what year
2015.
it was. 2015. And Disneyland.
Okay, I was about to ask Hollywood Studios or what. Great, yeah.
We love Star Wars, and we started this YouTube channel, Ordinary Adventures, right before Galaxy's Edge. Actually, because of Galaxy's Edge opening, like I was running Slash Film, and we got invited to an early preview of Galaxy's Edge, and I was like, no one's going to want to read about this. They want to see it. Yeah. So we started it because of Galaxy's Edge, and this was before, obviously, Rise of the Resistance, because it didn't open up with Galaxy's Edge. But it's kind of become a part of us.
Yeah, we when the ride first opened, we went every day for I want to say like 3 weeks straight to go on the ride and just to document it for YouTube. You could go back and watch. We have tons of videos on it.
That's amazing.
And we think this is one of the greatest rides of all time.
I get on every day though, because you had you had that virtual queue, and like everybody was standing on Main Street, ready to rope drop.
This is what the crowds on Main Street look like at 6 a.m. The park doesn't open until 8 a.m. The entire line outside has been let in. So I think at this point, it's just a matter of who can press the boarding party button first on the app. It's going to be complete madness.
Virtual queue will be used for the all-new Star Wars Rise of the Resistance attraction. Beginning at 8 o'clock this morning, guests may join the queue through the Disneyland app.
And you'd hear people cheering, and then when you didn't get it, everybody would be like happy around you, and you'd be like there sulking that you like lost the lottery.
Mine's not loading. Mine's not loading.
Wait,
Continue.
Go.
Find out more. Join boarding group.
How many people do we have?
7.
We're in? Got it.
I can't hit continue. We're already in a boarding group. Group 35. I'm already in.
Oh, yeah, it was like the Super Bowl, yeah.
It's funny that you would say that because
I felt bad.
I actually had gone to Disneyland 3 times to try and get on this ride, and all 3 times had lost the lottery.
No.
And then the pandemic happened. And then so I did not get on this ride until after the pandemic because I had 3 walks of shame. It was devastating to hear those cheers. So you guys were in a group that was cheering. I probably was nearby crying into a popcorn bucket. I mean, I guess the best thing about it though is like, you failed. Guess you're just gonna have to be in Disneyland now. So not the worst thing on earth, but not ideal either. But no, that's great. This is basically part of your guys' origin story then, essentially.
And it was like a weird thing, like where the Galaxy's Edge opened, and we had reservation for Galaxy's Edge, and a friend of ours had to reserve. Everybody had reservations, so we ended up going like 10 times in those 2 weeks. Those videos all blew up, so it became like a part of us.
We never intended to be a Star Wars Galaxy's Edge YouTube channel. It just kind of happened.
I mean, this is easily one of the best rides of all time, and I hope we do it justice. As you know, we do have a silly little rubric, or maybe you don't know. There's a silly little rubric at the end of this episode, which you could all stay tuned for. in which we will decide if this is a world-class.
Pass.
All right. Oh, I'm glad that you're taking it in stride and you're gonna treat the tests fairly, Peter. With that, let's go ahead and jump into some history, Byron. And
May 25th, 1977.
we're going way back.
Oh,
Holy
we're
shit.
going way back. We're going over 40 years back. May 25th, 1977. George Lucas unleashes Star Wars upon the world, breaking box office records left and right, in addition to spawning one of the largest movie franchises of all time.
Before you go on, do you know it opened the same weekend as Star Wars?
No way. No way do I know.
I don't know, a movie that got beaten into
You did
the
an episode
ground.
on this attraction.
Wait, what?
Whoa.
Wait a second. Okay, let me think.
We should have known that Peter would come up with a movie question off the bat.
That's right. If for those of you who don't know, Peter was the founder of Slash Film, a popular film
I think
publication.
you're taking the question. I think you're taking the question differently than I think what I meant it. Which attraction opened the same weekend?
I thought you meant which film
Star Wars.
opened beside it.
Oh, that's good. Okay, so 77, that would have been, because it wouldn't have been Mr. Toad.
That
It would have been Space Mountain.
Space
Yep.
Mountain, yeah.
That's, wow.
Well, now you're
Space
talking our
Mountain
language.
is in.
That's right. It was quite the intergalactic weekend.
Wow, that's crazy. Oh, that probably helped it quite a bit. I wonder if people actually thought that had anything to do with Star Wars, and there was some synergy there. Huh. I wonder.
Who knows? And then when Space Mountain opened, that broke the weekend attendance for Disneyland for that weekend. It had like nearly 200,000 guests over that course of that weekend.
Do you know who was there the opening day of Disneyland?
Opening day of Disneyland or opening
George
day?
Lucas.
Well, yes, he loves it. George is known to pop up in a bunch of different places. I think that guy pops up in more random videos than anybody known to man. Have you seen have you seen that clip of that guy who was making a documentary and then he just happens to catch George Lucas standing directly in the center of frame and then walk out? I can't believe that wasn't planned. It's like some French documentary, right? It's insane. Anyways, continuing on, Byron.
January 9th, 1987, Michael Eisner is CEO of the Walt Disney Company and uses the relationship he built with George Lucas during his tenure at Paramount Pictures to bring a groundbreaking Star Wars experience to Disneyland Park in the form of Star Tours, which was accomplished via the collaboration of Lucas, Industrial Light and Magic, Tony Baxter and the Imagineers, and executed with the help of military-grade flight simulators, creating a revolutionary ride experience. July 22nd, 1994, Disney MGM Studios gets the Twilight Zone Tower of Terror, which introduces a groundbreaking ride system of its own, via the help of an elevator company being instructed to do the opposite of what elevator companies should be doing, making people drop. In addition to falling faster than the speed of gravity, riders are treated to a trackless ride system, accomplished with the use of magnets following a tiny wire on the floor. This system was introduced in 1982 with Universe of Energy at Epcot and used again in 1989's The Great Movie Ride, respectively. Implementing this ride system into Tower of Terror allowed ride vehicles to enter and exit multiple elevator drop shafts as if they had a mind of their own.
Wait, hold on. Before we go any further here, I'm just curious. You guys are the Star Wars folks here. What the hell are they going to do with Star Tours? It's so
I don't know.
It's so weird.
Very strange. I don't like that. My brain doesn't like that there's a Star Wars attraction in Tomorrowland and then we have a whole land. But at the same time, I don't want them to ever get rid of that ride because I love that ride. So.
What I would love for them to do, they wouldn't do this because this would involve a lot of money and it's not worth it for them, is to relocate Star Tours to the entrance of Batuu, and that way, like, you go on Star Tours and then you land in Batuu and you get off and you are there.
That's great. Yeah,
kind of like the Hogwarts Express,
because it is like essentially like a travel spaceport.
But we're not here to talk about that. Anyways, continue forward, Byron.
September 4th, 2000, Tokyo Disneyland opens Pooh's Honey Hunt. Unlike our Winnie the Pooh ride here in the States, Pooh's Honey Hunt introduces, well, what we refer to today as the world's first trackless dark ride system, because unlike the previous iterations of this ride system, the ride vehicles are no longer guided by a wire, but controlled in real time via a massive central computer system that dictates movements based on wireless transmissions sent by sensors planted throughout the quote-unquote layout of the ride.
Wait, that's the puck, right? The puck system?
Think of it as like small location, like GPS, like GPS on a much smaller scale.
Oh,
so it's basically telling the big computer in the middle, oh, this is where, it's triangulating and showing where the ride vehicle is. And then the computer's then telling the ride vehicle, do this. because you're here, or I mean, I'm not a freaking expert on. I didn't design the ride. But, I mean, if you guys have any extra insight there, by all means.
Well, we just went to Japan and we actually did Pooh's Honey Hunt, and it holds up. Like it's amazing how old that ride is.
Wait, I haven't been on it. I haven't been on it.
I've ever been on.
I have not been on that ride.
No spoilers.
No spoilers.
No spoilers.
No spoiling. But I will say it is
amazing.
Pooh's Honey Hunt. I'm
So
right
good.
there. I'm right there with you. It's an incredible ride.
Of course you like it, Byron. That's your nickname, Pooh
Whatever.
Bear. All of our friends call
Whatever,
Byron
dude.
Pooh Bear because he lumbers around and he looks for tasty little treats.
I love that.
But Japan's like 20 years in the future because we didn't get this technology until like 19 years later.
Oriental Land Company had ridiculous budgets, so they were
Spared
able
no
to-
expense.
They were able to really go heavy on the development. May 31st, 2007, the theme park landscape gets a shock to the system when Universal creative lead Scott Throwbridge announces that the Wizarding World of Harry Potter is coming to the Universal Orlando Resort, which opens to ecstatic fanfare on June 18th, 2010, skyrocketing Universal's park attendance and serving as Disney's first legitimate dose of competition since the opening of Universal Studios Florida back in 1990. Disney was very impressed with Universal's game-changing immersive land, so much so that only 4 months after the Wizarding World announcement video, the Orlando Sentinel reported that its creative mastermind, Scott Throwbridge, was leaving Universal Creative in order to join Walt Disney Imagineering. October 30th.
I didn't realize they poached him.
I didn't say that.
What do you? Oh,
I didn't say, well, once again, who's to say? Who's to say? It's just I'm just going on the timeline here. So
that's interesting. I thought they just saw, oh, that's a cool land. We should build our own. I didn't realize they were like, we need that guy. We're gonna.
I'm once again. I just noticed that I was looking at the timeline of things. I've never seen this in a video. I've never read this in an article. I'm just like, that's an interesting timeline.
What do you think they're going to send you a cease and desist right now? They're not listening to this podcast. There's no, well, maybe they are. Fucking, if you are, I'd like put the magic keys back on sale.
Over speculate.
But talk about that guy. Scott created the amazing Spider-Man ride in Universal Islands of Adventure, which is one of the best rides ever, and Rise of the Resistant. Yeah. I mean, insane.
I remember as a kid watching a Travel Channel video, and he was there with a big ponytail talking about the Incredible Hulk coaster and talking about that launch system.
What the hell do we do for a living? I mean, is this a job? You're gone before you even have a chance to even think about it.
Pretty crazy. It's the same guy.
That Spider-Man ride kicks ass.
It's so good.
So good.
So good.
October 30th, 2012. Disney buys Lucasfilm for a massive sum of over $4 billion. In addition to Lucasfilm immediately getting back to work on new Star Wars films, Walt Disney Imagineering now has the IP they need in order to provide an adequate answer to Universal's juggernaut of a Wizarding World. Walt Disney Imagineering creates a new studio that is strictly dedicated to developing Lucasfilm and Star Wars projects for their parks, and is led by none other than Scott Throwbridge. August 15th, 2015, Disney CEO Bob Iger announces Star Wars Galaxy's Edge at the D23 Expo. He also goes on to specify that this highly immersive Star Wars land was not only going to be built at Disneyland in California, but also in Disney Hollywood Studios in Orlando.
Now wait a second here, because Peter, as you had Slash Film at the time, were you at that D23 Expo when he announced this?
We were.
It was amazing.
Oh,
it was
God.
iconic. It was like, we're not just building one, we're building two.
Yeah.
Now, would I'm imagining you've been in a bunch of those D23 Expos. Have you ever seen a room more electric than that room when this announcement was made? Has there been anything that rivaled it?
Well, that's a good question.
Well, lately they're not announcing anything, so I would
that
say
is
no. Star Cruiser.
That's true.
Like, we were also there when they announced the Galactic Star Cruiser, and people were pretty excited about that too.
Yeah.
Anyways, continue, Byron.
The land is designed to feature 2 state-of-the-art attractions, one being Millennium Falcon Smuggler's Run, which puts you into the cockpit of the iconic spaceship, the second being the land's big e-ticket experience, a massive and mysterious headliner, if you will. But when Star Wars Galaxy's Edge opens in its respective parks during the summer of 2019, park guests are only treated to the Millennium Falcon attraction, as this mysterious headliner was not ready in time to open with the new land.
What do you guys think of Smuggler's Run?
I think we both like Smuggler's Run, but I think it needs an update. Like, I wish it was more like Star Tours where they would change it Like it'd be kind
Have
of
different
random.
missions. Yeah.
Because I've been doing the same mission for Hondo for how many years now? And I'm pretty good at it.
How much coaxium
I always
does
get
that
the
does Hondo need?
I have like millions of things of coaxium.
Yeah. At one time we got 3. I mean, I don't think that's possible, but
Finally, on December 5th, 2019 at Hollywood Studios and January 17th, 2020 at Disneyland, we get Rise of the Resistance, an attraction more ambitious than perhaps any attraction before it that sends you on a multi-leveled resistance mission to defeat the First Order. It quickly becomes apparent why this attraction experienced the opening delay that it did, because in order to pull off this immersive 18-minute experience, Imagineers implemented the motion simulator dark ride system introduced with Star Tours in 87, the Twilight Zone Tower of Terror drop tower ride system introduced in 94, and stitched it all together with the trackless dark ride system introduced with Pooh's Honey Hunt in 2000. The result is what many consider to be the world's most innovative and impressive attraction.
Yeah, multiple ride systems. Crazy shit.
I just don't know why Byron listed off like all these like dates of stuff that are not connected together in any way whatsoever.
It was a long, winding road.
I was a little worried myself.
Yeah, it's like, why are we talking about Pooh's Honey Hunt? I know that's your guy.
Yeah, how is that connected?
It's pretty impressive what they've done here. And now that he has presented that very highly researched and polished history section, it's time to go for some fun facts with me. But before we do that, let's have a word from our sponsors. And we are back. It's fun fact time. Now, I will caution you guys and the listeners and viewers that these are fun facts. So some of them I found online. I'm not sure about them. I will call them out. I will say, hey, I don't know about this one, but people think this. Hence the term fun.
You should just have Kevin from Defunctland pop up every once in a while and be like, that's not true.
Yeah, we'll have him
on the internet.
You mean like Clippy? Remember that guy? The Microsoft Word guy? Clippy?
Yes.
That funny guy.
What are you talking about? We got the best 2 Rise the Resistance fact checkers on the planet.
That's us.
First fact that I wrote here. Coming from the Ray pre-show onward, the entire experience is 18 minutes long. But the actual ride portion is about 7 minutes. And Disney touts this as the largest experience that they've ever created. Or one of the largest is, I guess, the actual verbiage there.
Because have you ever been on Ellen's Energy Adventure?
Yeah, or even or Living with the Land. I think Living with the Land is longer than this too.
Love that ride.
God, I fucking love Living with the Land. I'll live with the land any day of the
So
week.
good.
Mm-hmm.
I took an entire boat full of dudes on that ride for my bachelor party. They were not pleased because they're they're not theme park sickos. They're normal people. And they were like, why are we not on Rise of the Resistance?
They didn't try to like jump off the boat and like steal a zucchini or something?
No, but they definitely stole some very dirty glances towards my direction after. They were like, because they thought I was trolling. They thought I was like, no, this ride is incredible. But yeah, this experience is apparently 18 minutes long, counting the pre-shows. The ride has a capacity of about 1,100 to 1,500 riders per hour with a speed that I could not find online, surprisingly. But if I had to guess, it would probably be around the 8 to 10 mile per hour range. These trackless vehicles move pretty fast from my recollection. Do you think that's about accurate, Byron?
Sure.
Great. Good enough for me. The ride cost $200 to $450 million to build, with the high end originating from a Wall Street Journal article that spoke to a former Disney employee who worked on the project. But when breaking it down, it seems much more likely that the $450 million estimate is accurate. I also read that even just the permitting for the construction cost $78 million.
Wow.
So this would make it, I think this makes it the most expensive Disney attraction ever built, at the time at least.
At the time, because Cosmic Rewind, they rumored to be $500 million.
Oh God, I love that ride. But yes, at the time, this was $450 million to spend on a ride, a pretty penny. It required over 5 million lines of code, the largest concrete pour in Disney history, and contains 65 animatronics, according to CNN, as well as 3 A1000 animatronics, Disney's most advanced animatronic system ever made, notably the Kylo Ren animatronics that are in this ride. And for those curious about A1000 animatronics, there's an expert from blogmickey.com that explains that conventional animatronic motors are used to move limbs, and they're large and they emit a lot of heat. So Walt Disney Imagineering worked alongside a vendor to develop thin pancake motors, which are these little tiny motors that are capable of fitting inside the animatronic, but still provide the power needed to achieve fluid, human-like movements without the overheating issue, which is why these bad boys are so realistic looking. Like the Hondo Anaka animatronic is an A1000 animatronic, and I believe the Kylo Ren animatronic that is by the blast that almost gets sucked into space, and also the Kylo Ren that's on the bridge of the ship is also an A1000 animatronic. Really cool stuff. They've gone a long way with these guys. I remember when I saw the Hondo animatronic, I legitimately thought that was an actor when I first walked in. I don't know if you guys had that same reaction, but I was so impressed by the fluidity of the movements of that bad boy. The scenes in the ride were shot between The Last Jedi and Rise of Skywalker. I think some of it was shot during Last Jedi and some of it was shot during Rise of Skywalker, which is actually when this ride is canonically supposed to take place between the two films. It's, I guess it happens right after, I forget the name of that battle in Last Jedi. It's like the crate battle. Is that what it's called?
The crate, yeah. I think the whole land is technically like supposed to be between that time frame.
It's a moment frozen in time before tragedy, if you will, because I unfortunately did see Rise of Skywalker. I'm actually curious, Peter, did you like Rise of Skywalker?
This is probably a bad question. We both love Rise of Skywalker.
I didn't hate it as much as... Listen, I
didn't hate it. She loves it.
The whole sequel trilogy is very special to me. We started dating right when Force Awakens came out, so and we were lucky enough to go to all three of those premieres, and I don't know. I feel like they could have done a better job, a more cohesive, the directors could have talked to each other and written a better story. Yes. So I don't know, but I didn't hate it as much as everyone else, but I'm sorry. Don't cancel me. I know. I'm sorry.
Kitra, you just basically said, I think they could have done a better job telling a story, but I think other than
that, listen,
I'll say it better.
But I don't hate it, but I enjoyed it. I thought it was great.
I'll say it better than her. I think J.J. Abrams with Force Awakens established one story, and then Rian Johnson
did another.
I'm not a Rian Johnson hater. I love Rian Johnson. We're friends with Rian Johnson. I think he took a swerve, and if you're making a trilogy,
I think the Last Jedi should have been the final movie.
I love that.
Well, that would have worked better as a final movie than. I don't know. I just feel like there
were some choices made in Rise of Skywalker, but I did like it. I haven't watched it in a while, but
you're backpedaling now. She loves Rise of Skywalker,
and somehow Palpatine returned. Anyways,
yes,
we're gonna move on. I'll just say this: Last Jedi kicks ass. I love Last Jedi. Rise of Skywalker could have used a refund, but the
Force Awakens is actually my favorite. I love Force Awakens.
I like Force Awakens as well.
I'm right there with you. Force Awakens for me.
But Last Jedi has a lot going for it. It's got the porgs. It's got shirtless Kylo Ren showing off those pecs. Thick Ren.
That's true.
Thick Kylo.
Rise of Skywalker has Babu Frick. So just got to say.
That's very true. We got Babu Frick.
Yeah, but it doesn't have greased up Adam Driver. Anyways, trivia time.
Kiss.
Do we have any guesses on how many stormtroopers are in the hangar bay of the Star Destroyer when you step out of that transport? This is like guess how many jelly beans are in the jar.
100?
No. You said 70 animatronic, no. I'm guessing 60.
I can't do math.
60?
49.
Byron's the closest. It is 50.
Damn.
And some of them are animatronics.
Okay,
Not all of them are animatronics, but some of them are animatronics in that their heads and hands move. It's an amazing scene. The scale of the attraction is massive, obviously. The show building is one of the largest built in Disney history at 165,000 square feet. The all-terrain walkers are full scale and stand at 72 feet tall. The hangar of the Star Destroyer sports a 100-foot widescreen of outer space, as well as a full-scale TIE fighter. The attraction uses the same trackless technology utilized in Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway, and like Byron mentioned, Pooh's Honey Hunt.
Mystic Manor, Ratatouille.
Exactly. And this works by vehicles moving on a programmed route using RFID pucks embedded in the floor to communicate position. It's called LPS, a local positioning system. Speaking of LPS, the cannons that move in and out also run on LPS. And I guess the idea here was to have the vehicles kind of cat and mouse, as Imagineers often said, around these moving cannons. However, I have never seen these cannons operational. They've
been broken for a while. I think they've been broken for a while.
This ride notoriously breaks down, and I think this is one thing that they may have disabled. It might have been causing issues.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know for a fact.
I think it might
I haven't seen it working once since the pandemic.
I think it's probably it's got the Yeti treatment. It's on permanent B mode. It's just they're just stuck because like I think because they run on the same LPS system, it got too much for that to communicate with the LPS system of the ride vehicles, and I think it just overloaded the computer. Also, I read that there's a lot of dead spots in Wi-Fi in the ride, and they tried to fix them, but still sometimes causes issues, which is why the ride breaks down all the time. Anyways, I'd love to see these cannons. I can never see them. The projections of Kylo.
Wait, can I say something about that
AT-AT?
Yeah. Can I say something about that AT-AT room?
Yeah.
Because you mentioned like all these are trackless ride systems, but I feel like for the most part, the trackless ride systems don't really take advantage of there being no track. Sure, all of them dance at some point.
That's true.
No, you're in Mickey Minnie, you're in a dance studio, you dance or whatever. But I feel like the AT-AT room in Rise of the Resistance is the only one where like you go into that room and you don't know where you're going to go. Do you know what I mean? At first you're going to go to that door, then the door shuts in front of you and then stormtroopers are falling. Then you end up going up this elevator. I don't know. I think that is the brilliance of that trackless ride system at use in that one room, because it like really gives you a sense of like, I don't know where we're going.
Also, there's two different outcomes of places you go in there. There's one where you see the Finn animatronic, and then I believe there's another version where you get a different view of it, or there are two different versions of an outcome in that room, which also adds to the kind of like, which way are we going to go? I love it. I think this is probably the best implementation of the trackless ride vehicles. I did say that about Mickey and Minnie, but upon reflection, I don't know. Let me retract that.
Wait until you go on Pooh's Honey Hunt.
Yeah, the thing is, I think Pooh's Honey Hunt's right up there for me, and I will not spoil any of it.
We also did
Mystic Manor. I've not been on, but I heard that one's really cool.
I want to go on that so bad.
Well, we also just did the new Beauty and the Beast ride in Tokyo, which is also a trackless dark ride. That one's pretty good, but there was a lot of dancing in that one.
There is dancing.
Moving on, the projections of Kylo and Hux in the interrogation room are called Musion projections, basically an evolution of the Pepper's Ghost effect, where images are projected onto a 45-degree plane of glass to make them seem to inhabit physical space, and the shadows of Kylo and Hux, which further sell this effect, are separate projections perfectly synced to Kylo and Hux's movements. An incredible effect, one of the more convincing uses of this Musion projection that I've seen. And then, it's also, great performances from the two of those, but we'll get into that for the good and the bad. Speaking of projections, the moment when Kylo walks towards you with a lightsaber is also a projection, but he is moving in the sense that the glass is moving. He's projected onto a moving piece of glass that's moving towards you, and that is synced with the movement of a physical lightsaber, which is a practical effect. So it's kind of a combination of the two of them. Imagineers developed all types of proprietary effects used in this attraction, like the fan-like apparatus used to create the illusion of a moving beam of light in the air to simulate laser blasts. And this is accomplished by... Have you guys ever seen those, like, when you were a kid, you would have, like, a wand that would have, basically, like, fan blades on it, or even, kind of, like, stringy blades on it, and you press a button and it would spin so fast that you could project words on it?
Mm-hmm.
That's basically the same thing they use to create these laser blasts, which I had no idea that's how they did.
That's so cool.
Because the blades spin so fast that they become invisible, but you can project something onto it. When you first step onto the large transport vehicle to go from the Rebel base to Bergara, you leave through the same door you came in, and yet you're now on the Star Destroyer captured by the First Order. This shocking effect is accomplished by the large ride vehicle being on top of a turntable. And the transport is just a facade that conceals the circular show building which you are inside of. You can actually clock this by looking at the ground as you cross the threshold. You'll see a circular outline on the border where the lines meet, which is it's perfectly synced to the movement of the projections that you're seeing inside that little transport vehicle. Did you guys know that, by the way?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm curious.
Well, it blows my mind every time.
It blows my mind because everybody always looks at the other door. They think like that's the door that's going to open, but then when the door that they came in open, it's so mind blowing. But one effect that many people don't notice is when you're in that shuttle, because they had to fit 3 shuttles on that turntable that you're talking about.
Yeah.
So there's 3 different. There isn't enough room to have the full ship. So when you're looking out the front of the ship and you see Lieutenant Beck, and then there's Nine Numb driving the ship.
Yeah.
Nine Numb isn't actually there. He's actually on the floor, and they're using a mirror to make it look like he's there in the front of the ship, if that makes any sense.
That's crazy.
Yeah,
I did not know that. That's incredible. I'm going to have to look at that next time I'm on there. I would have never even guessed that that's a mirror. Also, I love that animatronic
I feel like
too.
Scott Trowbridge is a magician because there's so many different magic tricks and illusions in this ride. Just like so well integrated.
It harkens back to Pepper's Ghost Effect, which was a magician trick. And last but not least here, my last fun fact. This is my personal favorite effect in the whole ride. I know it's simple, but I love it. It's when Kylo's lightsaber pierces the ceiling and cuts through the ceiling of the turbo lift. This is accomplished by having the route of the saber pre-cut into the ceiling and then having a layer rotate around to conceal the path. The lightsaber comes through an exposed hole, and then the layer rotates along with the saber to create the cutting effect. And the saber, if you look at the saber, it has that same kind of erratic display, the signature erratic display of Kylo's lightsaber. This is accomplished by the blade itself rotating as well as being paired with sound effects. So, like you said, it's just there's magic at hand here on this ride, and they really did think of every little detail except for making those cannons move. which is just a classic Disney fan thing. Like, wow, they did all this amazing stuff. Would be sick if those cannons moved, though. But let's move on to current reputation. But before we do that, let's have a word from our sponsors. And we are back. Let's talk about the current reputation. Byron, let's discuss how popular the attraction is today. What are the average wait times of this attraction? Where does it fit within the landscape? And how do people generally feel about this attraction?
Okay, so for any viewers or listeners that were around when this ride first opened, it was absolute mayhem in regards to getting onto.
It broke people's hearts, as it did mine.
I will bring up my experience in the first impression segment, but let's just say that within a matter of a second or two, if you did not hit that button, it was essentially like a lottery that within you had to get to the park at the crack of dawn. You had to basically, as soon as the allotted time hit to try and join a boarding group, you had to hit the button on your app, and no joke, within a second or two, you knew your fate for the day. And, a fraction of the people got it. A fraction of the people had to go home pretty much, or just do other stuff in the park. But everyone was there to get on that ride. So it was a big mix of emotions. I know you touched up on that earlier, where you have a lot of people cheering, you have a lot of people really bummed out. I know you're one of those for a few separate rounds. So obviously this ride did not open with Star Wars Galaxy's Edge. So there was just so much anticipation for what was to come. So when people finally were able to get onto it, though, it did not disappoint in regards to public opinion at large. For Hollywood Studios, the highest recorded wait time, and this is after the whole boarding group period. So once standby was introduced, which it is now for both parks, highest recorded standby wait time for Hollywood Studios is 420 minutes. That is
holy
7 hours. And sometimes I get skeptical of these.
7 hours.
Sometimes
there's no way that's right. 7 hours. Is that right? Someone wonder what's up for. Doing some quick
I can't do math.
Did I do bad math there?
No, you're right. No, you're
So
right.
it's
Yeah, you're
7
right.
hours,
Yeah,
right?
you're right. I can't do math. I tried to do some quick math and I did wrong math.
This was on so this 7 hour wait time was on October 14th. This is the Hollywood Studios version, by the way. October 14th of 2022 at 11:30 a.m.
Wow.
Usually we get this data from thrillData.com in regards to this wait time, because I'm usually skeptical when they're extremely high like this. I actually was able to source other places and find an actual screenshot that the Disney app produced of this 420 minutes at 11:30 a.m.
That's absolutely absurd. Could you imagine a family planning to just come to Disneyland to ride Rise of the Resistance, and they only are here for a day or two, and they have to spend one day in this line? That's bananas.
What is worse? You paying to come to Disneyland, and it's like you're one day in Disneyland with the family, and you get there at 7 a.m. and you press the button and you've lost the lottery.
Yeah.
Or you can wait the 5 hours and like which
or
one's
you could
worse?
just pay for the lightning lane and pay $20 and just skip the line entirely.
Well,
Kitra, you might as well have said
that's
in the voice of Mickey Mouse.
That's what Disney's banking on for sure.
Or you could spend the $15 and you
You got a family of 5. That's only $100. Not that bad.
It's so evil. I mean, I'm a big proponent of like people should be able to wait as long as they need to get on a ride. So I'm glad they introduced the standby, but good Lord, 7 hours is absurd.
And I think a big reason why it hit 7 hours on this day is apparently minutes after this 420-minute posted time on the Disney app, the ride shut down for an extended period of the day. And then when it opened up, it was for the rest of the day more like an 100-minute wait.
Yikes.
But still, crazy long line. Yeah, if you saw that ride go down on that day, I would have just like done a few laps on a Muppet Vision 3D and just hope that it happens to open up. I have done this on Rise of the Resistance a few times where I did this actually last month. I did do Muppet Vision 3D with hopes that Rise of the Resistance would open up. And after I got out of Muppets, I'm walking up and they just start opening the chain up again to let people in. And it was like a 2-hour wait all day. And I just walked on.
Actually, Fresh Baked, our pal who's a friend of the pod, he actually just did a study on this. And apparently, if the ride closes, once it reopens, you have 15 minutes to get onto it before you've lost your advantage.
That's pretty good.
So like if you see the ride is down, that's probably the best way to get on this ride. You just kind of like hang around and hope that it will reopen. He did say that it takes about 45 minutes to reset. So if it goes down, it's going to take at least 45 minutes, and then you want to be there when it reopens.
Go get a Ronta wrap and then come back.
Right. That video was incredible too, because he went on the ride like 30 times.
That's right.
To get the data.
Ronta wraps
but it's
incredible.
Brutal when it breaks down. Like, because there is that drop and you have trackless ride vehicles, like there's this whole safety system that goes into place that it, like the least it can be is like 40 minutes, like to do the entire reset.
It is
because of like safety protocols.
Do you guys have a trick that you employ here at risk of giving it up to the public?
Get on?
Yeah, like do you guys go on rope drop it? Do you go on late at night? Is there like a particular time you've noticed that it's low in weight?
The trick is like to go during like parades or
yes.
Firework time. I think it slows down. If you look on Thrill Data, I think it shows that it kind of slows down during those times.
I'm not gonna lie, even seeing this at 45 minutes, I'm thinking that's a bargain. Like that's a pretty good.
That's not bad.
That's a good deal.
Because that leads me into the all-time average wait time.
Oh, there you go.
For the Hollywood Studios version of Rise of the Resistance, and that's at 86 minutes.
Yikes.
So that does mean that you probably can find some times where it's an hour or less.
Wait a tick. Does that mean that we have not gotten the highest wait time for Disneyland?
No, that's coming.
Oh, could I take a guess?
Yes, go for it.
Wait, I'll let you guys guess first if you want to guess, because I think I'm going to nail this one.
I'm going to say 4 hours.
Oh, shit.
3 hours maybe?
I was going to say 4 hours, so I'm going to go, let's go 4 hours. I'm going to price is right him. 4 hours. No, wait, I'm going to, how about this? 4.5 hours. I'm going to go 4.5 hours.
270 minutes. That's 4.5 hours is the highest recorded wait time.
Wow.
Oh, dude.
Good job.
And then Disneyland's all-time average wait time, much shorter than Hollywood Studios, actually 71 minutes.
That makes sense because Hollywood Studios is a bad park.
That's not bad.
So once again, also Disneyland has a much bigger ride lineup. So naturally, those average queue times are going to be a bit lower. So 71 minutes, that means, once again, there's times that at least this ride is attainable now. When it first came out for the first year or two, it was a very difficult attraction to get on. Even if you were like an avid Disney goer, it was tough.
And in terms of like what people feel about this ride, I've noticed, and this happens with things that are truly excellent, people will start to hate on it. I've noticed it getting a lot more hate than it had in the beginning. Because when it first came out, like you said, everyone was, juiced and ready to go and finally able to see this thing that had been, rumored for a while. And so when people got on it, it was like, oh my God, this is the most technologically advanced ride I've ever been on. People were stoked. And then as time went on, it feels like now there are some folks being like, it's not that great. Am I alone in seeing that? It feels like that is
But
the
what
case.
are they saying is bad? Like, to me, the best Disney rides today are the ones that combine that storytelling of a dark ride, and then all of a sudden combine like the things unexpected and illusions, and also then like the thrill aspect. Like Radiator Springs Racers, I think is a perfect example of that.
No,
Like,
I
don't know,
agree.
I think this ride is so good.
I agree. I think it's just one of those things of just a victim of its own success. I think sometimes people like to be contrarian and they're just like, it's overrated, but I think you're wrong. But
I see some people saying like, I wish it was Darth Vader and whatever.
Oh my God.
It wouldn't be that much different. It would.
I don't listen to those opinions.
Let's move on to first impressions. This is where we just recount our first impression of the ride. What did you feel? What is the effect that it had on you? And we'll start with you guys.
Oh, I definitely cried.
Yeah, I get that.
I was very emotional. Still to this day, like every time I go on it, I'm just amazed by how good it is. And it always leaves me feeling so excited. And what about you?
To me, this ride captures what it's like to be inside a Star Wars movie, unlike any other ride captures what it's like to be inside that movie.
That property,
if that makes sense. And even if it's not recounting scenes from any of the movies as characters from the movies, and it's roughly like, Star Wars tropes, but it really does feel like you're in a Star Wars movie. And I that first time going on it, I was lucky to go to the press day in Hollywood Studios, and I was I was on the ride with just like one other person, my friend Brian Young, who's a Star Wars expert and novelist, and we were just like freaking out together over how good. Just, I don't know. It's to me, it's like maybe I'm the perfect person to ride this ride, but for me, it was the perfect ride.
No, and I definitely agree with you in that it is the best version of stepping into the world of IP. Like, I have never seen anything that, like you were saying, for example, fantasy rides, or Fantasyland rides, like the dark rides. Those are basically just rehashes of cool scenes in those movies. They're not telling like a story, so to speak. It's just kind of like the Cliff Notes version of that film. Whereas like this, you're seeing characters you recognize, but they're within a 3-act structure of an independent original Star Wars story. And even like, I remember when I got on it, I was blown away by the fact that they were able to hide kind of otherwise mundane things with theming and storytelling. Like, you're still in line when you're walking through the halls of the Star Destroyer, and yet you're so blown away that you're like, oh my God, I've seen stormtroopers and Darth Vader walk down these halls in several movies. I've always wondered what it would be like to walk on a Star Destroyer, and you really do feel like you're inside one, especially when you walk out to the view of that hangar and you see outside and all the stormtroopers. It definitely is the most immersive experience I've ever been on. And I remember that was the one thing I walked away just blown away by the level of detail and the scale and how hard they went on the immersion. And Byron, didn't we ride this together for the first time?
No, because
because you got in it before me.
I wrote it in. I just so happened to be in. I just so happened to be at Disney World in December of 2019 with my family. So it had been open for perhaps maybe like a week or two, and it was madness. And of course, like, my parents and siblings, like they love going on Disney trips occasionally, but like, I actually, while they were at the hotel the day before we were planning to go to Hollywood Studios, because like we had a multi-day park hopper pass, I just went by myself to Hollywood Studios just to go and talk to a cast member there and be like, all right, so how's this system work? Like, what time are people usually arriving here? And they're pretty much telling, the cast member told me, like, get here before 5 a.m.
Holy shit!
Wow,
dude.
It was madness, and like and I saw there's so many, and it was chaos because there were so many like broken-hearted park guests that were like kind of going up to like, guest experience and stuff like that, trying, because I think this was the first ride to have a boarding group system like this, right?
I think so. I mean, it definitely,
I think so. Yeah.
And so there's a bit of a learning curve, and for the average like tourist, it was madness. So, fast forward to the next morning, we're there at like 4:30 a.m. It's pitch black and it is packed. There's a sea of people already at the front gate of Hollywood Studios. We get in there by about 5:30 a.m. and this is the boarding group time. Or
dude, there is something.
They dropped the time at 6 a.m. is when you got to push the button.
Oh my God.
And it felt like I was in an NFL stadium or something like that. Everyone's there. There's just silence. And as soon as you see 6 on your phone, you hit it and you start hearing little like pockets of people in the crowd just erupting. And it was so suspenseful. And then luckily we got a rather early boarding group.
Thank goodness.
You left your hotel room at 4:30?
No, we left our hotel room at like 4.
There is something so unbelievably unhinged about getting out of bed in the morning to go to a theme park.
We would not have gotten. We wouldn't have gotten on the ride.
The sun wasn't even out yet.
No.
Fucking insane.
So yeah, next thing you know, so the park technically opened at 6 a.m. at that point.
Wow.
So it was like, our boarding group it says an estimated like 3 or 4 hours. Like, that's great. That's like 10 a.m. Next thing you know, I'm riding Slinky Dog Dash and it's still pitch black out. We get off Slinky Dog Dash and the sun starts rising on Batu when we walk in.
Rising suns.
How magical.
And there it is. And I've never had an experience like that. So it was magical. Of course, the ride broke down. We didn't get on for, until like the afternoon. But we did get on, and it's just one jaw-dropping scene after another.
Yeah.
And everything was working.
I have to say, there are probably people who went through the system that you just described, got on the ride, were like, oh my God, we actually did it. We're on the ride. And then it broke down on their first time. Could you imagine?
Awful.
It was doing that I felt like every hour.
I'm fighting a stormtrooper. I'm getting my money's worth.
Although I will say, it is my dream. It is my dream for the ride to break down during that AT-AT room.
Oh my God.
I get to walk off. I can walk off, take a photo. They're going to be like, no photos. I'm still going to do it.
Yeah. Why not? Why not?
But it's never happens. It only breaks down when I'm like in interrogation.
I hope that happens for you. Because it also was a dream of mine to walk under one of those bad boys like Luke Skywalker on Hoth. Maybe climb it. Or what doesn't he pull? That's where he pulls the move with the wire and he fucking trips one of those. Anyways, let's move on to the good and bad. But before we do that, let's have a word from our sponsor. And we are back. All right, let's go to the good and the bad. What are the good and bad things about this ride? And of course, you guys could expand or add on to any of these. But let's start with the good. And I just wrote down a bunch of bullet points here. So first bullet point, the ray projection room. Totally, it's an amazing effect. That ray projection is sick. It's done with mirrors and screens, apparently, and baby, it's confusing. Otherwise, I'd explain it, but just trust me, they do with mirrors and screens. It's very complicated, but an incredible effect. And you gotta love seeing your guy BB-8 roll in there. An underrated animatronic in this, but I love seeing him roll around. You also see him in the X-Wing outside in Poe Dameron's ship. It's a little missed detail. That I don't know how.
Yeah, by the way, a lot of people say that's Pepper's ghost, and that's not Pepper's ghost. It's a totally different.
It's completely different. It is literally a mix of mirrors and screens. There's actually a video that breaks it down, and even after watching the video, I'm like, I give up. It's magic. I don't care. It's just it's a projection. There, I don't need to know how every little thing works. And then even seeing Poe's full-scale X-Wing, this is just another way to kind of sell you into the world. And I think Peter touched on this earlier. That's the thing that I think this ride does better than any other ride, is that it doesn't use scale just for the sake of scale or to get your jaw to drop. It actually brings you into the story and traps you in the immersion even more so, just because I don't know what the actual scale of an X-Wing is or what the actual scale of an AT-AT is, but I have a feeling of what it should look like, and they nailed it, I feel like, in terms of like There was not one thing that I saw from the movies in real world in this ride that I was like, that doesn't look like how I thought it would. Every single thing looks exactly like I thought it would.
Oh, totally. And I also get very excited every time I see Poe on that ride. I'm always like, yes, Poe's here.
Well, who's not going to be
She always
excited?
laughs whenever Poe tells her that she's a fine-looking group of recruits. Or whatever.
He told that to me the last ride, and I still haven't stopped blushing. It's Oscar Isaac.
He gives a smooth performance. I gotta say, in regards to how, like, you know, sometimes they kind of like, you know, they cheese it up a little bit. I don't know. I thought he was.
That's actually my next bullet. Honestly,
him and Daisy Ridley, yeah,
pretty decent on-ride acting performance from my boy Oscar Isaac here. I thought he did a good job. Most people phone it in, like they do, like they're clear. I'm on a theme park ride acting performance, but I actually thought Oscar Isaac kind of went hard here. The transport simulator, it's amusing, but my favorite part of it is Lieutenant Beck. It's an amazing animatronic.
Oh, love him.
I am Lieutenant Beck.
He's the best.
I love his big ass
you can
eyes.
get, like, right in his face.
Oh, I know, right? He's got those big ass eyes, and he's got his super swivelly chair. That's like really like, it's all really good. Also, shout out to the much more subtle pilot animatronic. You actually knew the name of that guy. That really sells the realism. What was his name?
Nine Num. He was in the original trilogy.
Oh shit.
Nine Num.
Don't
ask me to spell it, but
yeah, his animatronic is it really sells the realism of that transport vehicle because it's very understated. It's just kind of in the background. You almost don't even realize that he's there until Beck points him out. But it just sells the world so much. The aforementioned transport gag that makes you believe you've been captured, incredibly effective. I went on this ride for the first time with, not with my wife, the second time I went on with my wife, and I did not tell her anything about this ride. And she knew that there was pre-show room. She knew that the experience was long. But when we were on that transport vehicle, the one that goes to, the one you get captured on eventually, she at one point
she thought that was the ride.
Yeah, she whispered to me. She was like, "This is it? There's no seats. We just this kind of sucks." And I was like, "Mari," and I didn't even say anything. I just kind of like let that bounce off of me. And then the door opens. She expects, all right, I guess we'll just walk off the ride and go to the exit, and walks out onto the hangar bay of that Star Destroyer. And she
so funny.
Produced a noise I have never heard her produce in my entire life. She just went, "Whoa!" And every time I get on this ride, there is somebody in that room who has not been on the ride before. Mm-hmm. And when that reveal hits, they lose their minds. And it's amazing. And one of my favorite things to do on a ride is to live vicariously through the experience of someone who has not experienced it. Mm-hmm. And in this particular case, you get it almost every single time because odds are there is a tourist on that little transport vehicle that doesn't know the ride, had a hard time getting on it. They're kind of pissed off. And then they walk out into that hangar bay and they're just mind blown. And it's satisfying every time. Next thing I wrote, stormtroopers are dipshits. We can all agree on that. But as a Star Wars fan, to see them fully realized like this, absolutely incredible. I mean, it's also undeniable that they're just cool looking. I think it's like one of the coolest character designs out there, stormtroopers. They can't shoot for shit, but, they look really cool. And to see them in real life like this, it doesn't feel like you're looking at animatronics just because the armor is so, like, well rendered on this ride that it really does feel like you're looking at these stormtroopers who, for the first time in my life, I was kind of thinking, wow, these guys are actually kind of menacing.
They're very intimidating.
When there's a whole troop of them and they're standing there with their blasters and you kind of feel like you're trapped, I'm like, oh, I could see why people would think these folks are scary. But when you see them in the movies, you're like, these guys are like traffic cones. Just get out of the way.
Well, they're not shooting yet on the ride.
No, they're not shooting it. Even on the ride, though.
They're not intimidating once they try. When you realize how bad their aim is.
No, when they're shooting at me on the ride, I'm always like, all right, we're fine. You're not going to hit me. But and then again,
I've seen in Florida sometimes they'll have like an actual stormtrooper, like a character in a stormtrooper outfit, like along with the troop and walking around and stuff. So it like adds to that illusion of like,
sweet. Wait,
a whole
really?
troop of them being there.
That's amazing. Yeah. That reminds me of when they would
I've only seen it once personally.
Oh, because they used to hide. There was a period of time, I think, like for an anniversary where they had scare actors. Well, not scare actors, but they had people in costumes in the Haunted Mansion Like there was a knight that would move and things like
Ooh.
that. So that's kind of cool that they would do that. I had no idea they did that. That's amazing. I hope I see it one day. In this room, also full-scale TIE fighter, as well as some good teasing of the ride vehicle, because we see the transport droid there too. I also love the First Order cast members being in full character, especially the ones with those funny little mics, the ones that have like the talk box. You know what I'm talking about? Like they have that little thing on their side. The thing that like referees in the NFL use when they announce like a penalty, they have those in this ride, and it's always super funny. Stormtroopers everywhere. They're like in the hangar bay. They're in the mid portion of the queue in the Star Destroyer. We already talked about how the Star Destroyer is just incredible. How it just kind of puts you into that world. I just couldn't believe I was walking through the hallways of one. This brings us to the interrogation room. I'm not gonna lie, I love me some Hux.
You chose the wrong side, and now you will pay.
I love that guy.
Same.
He's such a little douchebag. His delivery in that one line in Last Jedi, one of my favorite deliveries of the entire Star Wars franchise. It's when Kylo Ren is blasting the living shit out of Luke Skywalker, and I think he blasts him for like 30 straight seconds, and then Hux goes, "Do you think you got him?" It cracks me up every single time I watch that movie. And he gives a great performance here in the interrogation room. He's being a little stinker. I love it. And Kylo Ren, also really fun performance from him. That little, this also makes me laugh when there's a moment after he gives his little dialogue and he goes, "I will return to finish this personally." And then after he does that, he does this little like Vogue shoulder turn. It's like this kind of little prissy turn. And it's really funny, like the physicality of it. Also because I'm pretty sure that's not Adam Driver under that mask. I'm pretty sure they weren't able to get Adam Driver to record his scenes. So that's just a dude selling the physicality of Adam Driver. But look out for that moment. We'll put it up in the video version. A crack up. The interior queue being the halls of the Star Destroyer, I already talked about that. Incredible transitions on this ride. You know, we got the cutout of the wall in the interrogation room. You can actually hear the little audio cue of the Resistance, talking about how they're going to get them out and, before the wall actually gets cut out. Incredible storytelling. That leads you to a brilliant load zone that focuses on storytelling again, and less like you're just being loaded onto a ride. And just in general, I'm trying to think of a ride that does transitions better than this ride. Scene to scene, none of it feels unmotivated or contrived. Yeah. It's all just kind of flows.
Well, that first scene is incredible because like you have Lieutenant Beck like giving you the safety instructions, like keep your kids inside the vehicle, blah 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 blah. And then then there's these two vehicles which are actually the vehicles after you unload at the end of the ride. They're actually coming through, and like he tells R5 to like tell them it's a prisoner transfer, and like they talk to each other. So you actually have like the ride vehicles that are leaving the end of the ride being part of the story of the beginning of the ride, which is brilliant.
No, I will admit though that scene with the other ride vehicles that are the evil ones because they had the red eyes. I was a little confused. I was a little confused when I first saw those. I was like, wait, who are these guys? And then the guy was like, oh, tell them it's a prisoner transport. And I was like, yeah, tell them it's a prisoner transport. And then the scene just kind of ended. And I was like, all right, I guess we're moving forward. But I didn't digest the fact that, we were hijacking a transport droid. But it makes sense now. I remember my first reaction to that was like, what's going on here? We talked about it a little bit. The scale of that AT-AT room, mind-blowing. It might be the most impressive scene in the entire ride portion, in my opinion. Because I've always dreamed of running under those guys. And the fact that we get to weave around them now, it's just a dream come true. I also like the raise the shields moment. There's a moment when Kylo and Hux are standing on the bridge of the ship. You're overhearing like this secret conversation you're not supposed to hear. And then Kylo says, raise the shields out of nowhere. And Huck's like, what are you talking about? I don't see any indication. And all of a sudden, all the rebel ships, jump from light speed and are now in front of the ship.
You underestimate their conviction. Raise the shields.
Shields? I see no evidence.
Now! Sound the alarm!
It's just a nice, cool little detail that like Kylo's so force sensitive is so strong with the force that he already realizes there's ships coming at them from light speed. It's a really cool little detail and a way to sell storytelling and lore in just like one sentence, essentially.
I also like in that scene how they got him to basically the motion to work on both sides of where you end up, because there's two, ride vehicles at the same time going into those two pockets on each side of where Kylo Ren is.
Yeah.
And his motion works for both. He has a little bit of time with each side. No matter what he's saying, it works.
The prisoners have escaped. How brave, but ultimately hopeless.
I would love to just walk through each one of these rooms and have extended time to just kind of look at everything. Just because like every one of the rooms is so like beautifully realized and built to scale. It's just amazing. I guess this next thing I wrote, I don't even know what it is. The scream of R5 when
Yes. Love it.
R5 screams when Kylo's saber pierces the ceiling. It's very, very good. It sounds exactly like R2-D2. I think it's something like, wow!
Yes.
It's pretty good. It almost makes me wish that R2 was with us, but I'm not like one of those like people that's like, show me Luke! I'm fine with it being R5. I think it's funny that all droids scream the same, I guess. The fluidity and motion of Kylo almost getting sucked into space, wildly impressive.
By the way, it's so cool. If you look outside the window before that, you actually see the shot that comes and like breaks open the
oh my God.
ship.
I've never noticed that.
Oh, really? Oh, yeah.
That's incredible.
Yeah. So look to your right when you first like are seeing, you'll see like the shot hit it and it like causes it. It's all very well choreographed.
And wow, I'm going to look out for that the next time because I'm so distracted by how amazing that animatronic is because the arms are flailing around and moving pretty fast. To think of like the stress that might create on like a robot and having it repeat over and over again over the course of time, it makes sense that they had to basically create like new animatronics to make this effect possible. And then a couple last ones here. Drop shaft on a trackless ride. Mouse is in its bag here.
Yes.
It's good stuff. And even the unload zone, being completely separate from the load zone, sells storytelling until you actually get off the ride. Like you get off, like, say, Space Mountain, you're getting off on the same place where you got on. It's a ride. The experience is over. They sell that until you walk out the exit, essentially, that, like, you went on an adventure, you ended at a different place than you started. It's all kind of tied together. I just love it.
And I also love that, I don't know if you noticed, they update the time of day, like in the if you ride the ride during the day, Batuu in the projections before you take off in the pre-show is day, and if it's night, it's night.
It's pretty incredible. Do they have a dusk version?
I'm not sure exactly. We might have to ask someone who's ridden this 30 times.
Yeah, if only we knew somebody.
Yeah, ask David.
I love that it ends in the outside too, because like you said, if you're not only in a totally different area, but like you started the ride inside, now you're on the outside.
It also makes you kind of even forget, like, hey, when did I even get on this ride? Where did it begin? Because like even when you're getting on the ride vehicles themselves, it's such a rushed scene, not rushed in a bad way, but rushed in the sense of like you're in motion already, you're in the story already. To the point where like it's kind of hard. It's easy to forget rather that you're on a ride. And I don't know. I don't really know if there's anything quite like it. They try to do that on Transformers when they were like screaming at you. They're like, hey, everyone get on the ride really quick. Make sure you put on your 3D glasses. It's just like, all right, buddy. I don't think it's that big of a deal. I see the people that just got off after me. So I think it's fine. But in this particular case, they kill it. You guys have any things you want to expand on in that good list, or anything you want to add on, things you like or look for on this ride?
One thing I love, and I don't think many people notice, is how this ride could either be in the story of Galaxy's Edge, it could be at the beginning of the story of Galaxy's Edge, or it could be at the end of the story. So what I mean by that is like you could do this ride and then you take that exit escape vehicle down to Batuu, and then that's why Kylo Ren is on Batuu searching for the rebel. Do you know what I mean? It could be that, or he could have been on Batuu and then you go on the ride and then that's how he goes and catches up with them and stuff like that. So I feel like I like that it could work in the story of Galaxy's Edge.
Yeah,
in your adventure in Star Wars, it could work either way.
it kind of like
that's
speaks
a good point. I didn't
to
even think
like
of that.
the overall story that they were trying to sell. It kind of sells into that more so than other parts of the land where they kind of misfired. Like, yeah, I know there's not as many characters as folks would like, based on like, I'm sure when they announced this at D23, they were like, there's going to be the most immersive thing. They're going to have, performers all around that are having you partake in this, unfolding story right in front of you. It never really quite reached that, but I think Rise of the Resistance, to like what you were saying, is the one part that really still holds true to that original promise, in my opinion.
Yeah.
God, I wish they made that fucking that ride where they were walking on the what was it, the
oh my gosh,
the band,
that big creature. Is that the one you're talking about?
Yeah, like I think I called it the Bantus.
Bantha?
The Bantha walker ride.
Yeah,
I want that ride. Looks great.
That would have
been so cool
for kinetic energy of.
I don't know what the capacity of that ride would have been though.
It'd be garbage, absolute garbage.
The one thing I wanted to say was the cast members. I often get asked, like, if you were going to work at Disneyland, what ride would you work on? And the answer is either Jungle Cruise or be in the Star Destroyer and Rise of the Resistance, because those guys get to like have so much fun, play it up, be a character.
It's great.
Yeah.
I totally agree. I would love to be one of the people in the Star Destroyer just to really go for it.
And if you're having a bad day, it'll play off even better.
Oh, yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Actually, I remember
be rude as you want.
I remember one time I was in the Star Destroyer portion. I had to pee so bad. And Byron, I think you were with
I was with you.
You were with me, and I was like, I can't hold it. I'm not going to last on this ride. I need to go to the bathroom. So I walked up to one of the cast members, and I was like, I'm so sorry. I know you're doing a bit right now. I have to pee. And then the guy was like, well, we'll see if we could, perhaps you may be able to hold it. And I was like, perhaps not. I'm going to piss my pants if we don't find a bathroom in about 5 minutes. And he was like, very well then. And he like walked me out of this door. And unfortunately, the door that he walked me out of was just the backstage area, was completely not themed. And he was still in character, walking around like chefs and stuff. And I was just like, damn, this is kind of a bummer. But you look, I peed.
Wait, did you actually have to get to a bathroom in the backstage
There
area?
was a backstage area where they took me to a bathroom.
Oh, wow.
So if you want to see it, you could ask, I need to go pee. And you just have to sell the fear in your eyes. Because he saw I wasn't joking around. Well, let's move on to the bad. There's not too many. First one I wrote here. I'm not a big fan of the Rebel Caves. I think it's a pretty weak part of that queue. I get that it's like selling a hideout and it, that's kind of what it would look like, but did it have to be like that much of a hideout? To me, it almost was like, we spent a lot of cash on the rest part of this ride and the rest of the queue. Let's just throw some like cave walls.
I appreciate that there are like there's places to sit. Like they have like little benches.
Yes.
That
So
is
true.
That is true.
Yeah.
I gotta say, I really love how like beautifully inconspicuous it looks. That like you just keep, the further you go, they start like revealing little layer after little layer of it being a Rebel base. I think that's really neat.
I could see it. I just wish there was a little less cave, especially since the rest of the queue is so baller. Like this is just kind of, I mean, look, we're nitpicking.
Would you
here.
like them outside in a row of switchbacks?
No, I wouldn't like that.
Because that's
Byron,
essentially their way of doing it.
I would just like a little bit more. And look, I'm asking for a lot here. The probe droid scene, kind of weak. Like every time I see it, when they're like, "Oh, it's a probe droid. Make sure he doesn't see you," and then our car proceeds to sit there for like 10 seconds while we watch this probe droid kind of look at a wall. Like that always was just like, that probe droid could just turn around and see me, right? Like,
it's so big though. Like I love how big it is.
It is big. I wish it could turn around and like shoot like a laser, like scanning you, and you just narrowly avoid it.
See,
or something.
that's what I'm looking for. It's just kind of like a droid looking at a wall, like it's in the Blair Witch. And then we're just kind of sitting there hoping it doesn't see us.
Or if they got that like red scanner thing to kind of like just like go above your head or something,
see,
like in your direction.
I'm just saying it doesn't sell it.
You're lucky it didn't spot you.
And I'm like, not really. We stood there for 10 seconds. I'm surprised it didn't see us. It's not like we're masters of espionage over here. There's a fucking car full of people just being like, all right, hope it doesn't turn around what it's made to do. The Kylo walking effect it doesn't quite land for me. I think it's good though. Good job, good effort. It just doesn't it's a projection thing. I'm not a projection guy. So that's just, that's just
which moment is this?
This is the one he drops down and starts walking towards you with the lightsaber.
Oh, see, I like that.
I think
the inclusion of the practical lightsaber for me sells it. I'm usually not a screen guy.
When I found out how that was achieved, I think that's when I was like, oh, that's pretty cool, because it doesn't feel like it's just a projection.
Yeah, and I will give Disney the credit here that even though they do use these Musion projections a bunch of times in this ride, they always add some other element to plus it. So like the practical lightsaber, or in the instance of the interrogation room, they have the shadows. So they are doing things that go above and beyond just throwing a projection up. But in general, I'm a projection hater, I think. I think I've been beat to death by them by Universal, and the less of them the better, especially because there's so many practical, incredible full scale effects in this ride. It just, those kind of stand out to me.
Yeah.
And then the last thing I have here is, can we just get those freaking cannons working? Just one time.
Yeah.
I know I sound ungrateful, but I just want to see them go vroom vroom. Just once. Just it's every time I go to that it's Blue Ball Alley every single time I walk down that alley.
It's just a bunch of screens, and then your ride vehicle dodging essentially nothing. It's just
you just gotta believe me. When they do work, or when they did work, it was awesome.
It was like my favorite part of the ride.
It's not helpful, Kitra.
I was like, are we gonna get crushed? I don't know.
Kitra's like, I don't know. It's pretty sweet when it works. I know it has never worked for you, but it's pretty sweet.
It's one of the best parts of the ride.
And that's all I got.
I will say that even when they aren't working, that screen, I know you didn't bring this up right after you said you hate screens, but that screen for some reason is amazing with the outside into space, and like there's shooting at you. And then one of the shots actually like hits the wall as you're turning, and it like destroys part of the wall.
Oh no, when they use the projection, it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And I will say, I actually did write this down. I don't really like the screens, but I get the windows being screens that look out into outer space. But that's where I draw the line. Like, because they're not gonna like be able to. they're not gonna be able to like recreate space in any other fashion other than using the screen. So I get it there.
Here's the deal: if they're gonna give up on the cannons playing like that cat and mouse game with you,
then stop.
They should at least stop having us like act like we're still dodging it, and maybe get the ride vehicles to like rotate towards where the screens are instead of just turning your necks over there.
I agree with that. I think that's a good solve for B mode.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
But that's it. That's all I have for the bad. There's not a lot of bad in this ride. Sometimes we really have to scrape the bottom of the barrel here.
I got a couple at the bottom of the barrel.
They're
nitpicks. They're very much nitpicks. I feel like
I have a nitpick. I'm curious what your nitpicks are.
I just have two of them. I love when you have the guns from the AT-AT like come directly down to shoot at you.
Yeah.
You only get it from one side.
That's right.
And the other one, you just get the projection of the guy basically pulling out a bazooka. And it's just not nearly as cool. My second one was just I love the Kylo Ren animatronic. However, it's been down almost half the time I've been on this ride now. And when it does work, this is a nitpick. The planted feet, I can't like unsee it, because like I understand like it's an impressive animatronic, but he's kind of looks like one of those little like wacky or those inflatables when he's flailing, because his feet can't move, so his body has to sell the motion, which I think it does really well. But everything in his like the lower half of his body, it's like that's impossible.
Yeah, he's like a hula dancer on the dash of a car.
Yeah, he's got super glue on his feet or something like that. But that's all I got really. I mean, they're nitpicks.
And Peter, you had a nitpick as well?
Yeah, but I was gonna say, but I will say when he's down, the B mode to that is actually quite enjoyable. I mean, you don't get an animatronic as a screen thing, but
it's true.
Cool.
It's a good contingency plan when he flies by in the TIE fighter outside the window.
Yeah. It's a cool scene.
Yeah. My two nitpicks are
I'm curious.
They tried to place this in the canon between Last Jedi and Rise of Skywalker, but you have Poe's X-Wing, which blew up in Last Jedi, and Rise of Skywalker has a different X-Wing.
Oh, so, damn.
Kind of annoying as a Star Wars fan. And then also Kylo Ren has his mask back, but he doesn't rebuild that until Rise of Skywalker.
Oh my God.
Some good points there.
That actually did bother me. The first time I went on this ride, I was like, why has he got his mask? I want to see Adam. but I get it. He's cooler looking.
It's nerdy.
I want to see a shirtless Adam Driver on this ride.
I mean, I don't know if we could do that, but I mean, I wouldn't mind it.
I mean, what would we lose if we said, like, if we just said if it was between The Force Awakens and The Last Jedi? I know they say it's like after that certain battle, right? Like,
but even at the end of Force Awakens, his mask is all jacked up.
Oh, that's right.
Because remember, he has that funny scar in
that's
Last Jedi,
right. Yeah.
and then the scar's gone.
Yeah. They botched it. What can you say?
That's right? The scar changes from Last Jedi to Rise of Skywalker. It becomes sexier in Rise of Skywalker, from my recollection.
Mm-hmm.
They were like, we can't have him have an ugly scar. All right.
He's got a kiss scene coming up.
That's true. He does. It's an uncomfortable one, too. Let's move on to the crown jewel of this podcast, the conclusion, the world-class tests. But before we do that, let's have a word from our sponsor. And we are back. It is time to move on to the world-class tests. This is a rubric of 10 tests, painstakingly devised by Byron and myself to determine if an attraction is world-class. To receive the highly coveted world-class pass, the attraction must pass 7 out of 10 tests. A score out of 6 out of 10 leaves the attraction up for debate, where we could debate it into world-class standing. And anything lower than 6 out of 10 is an automatic fail. No world-class pass for you.
Oh no, I wonder what's going to happen.
Yeah, I wonder if this one's going to have a chance. We'll see. Let's move to the first test. Here we go. It's already the first test, the average tourist test. Would the average tourist have a hard time getting on this ride? Is there a long wait? Is there a complicated queue system? Now, it's funny because this was one of the attractions we had in mind when we made this test. Now, I will say,
well, it doesn't have a complicated virtual queue system anymore.
Not anymore.
Lightning lane.
Not anymore. That's what I was gonna say. It's interesting because now I actually weirdly think this might be okay. I think this. Well, Byron, you know what? This is interesting. Before we go on, the way we do this, we'll all have a vote here, and we go majority rules. So someone could fail it, but if we all have the majority of pass,
But we have 4 people.
So we might have to do a tiebreaker. I don't think it's going to come to that.
No.
Kitra, let's start with you. Do you think? What do you have for this one?
I think it's a pass.
Because of the standby line being there available now.
Yeah, I mean, if the average wait time is around an hour, I think that's fair. It's totally worth waiting an hour. Okay. I think it's worth it.
We got a pass from Kitra. Peter, what do you got?
Yeah, I would wait an hour. I would totally wait an hour. If the average wait time for this was over 2 hours, then maybe it would be, oh no. But also, if I wasn't a local and I was going to Disneyland on a once-in-a-lifetime trip and I didn't want to wait at the hour, I'd probably pay the $15.
But do you think an average tourist?
Japan.
Do you think an average tourist would have a hard time getting on this?
Like apart from the actual wait time,
currently,
like finding it, and
I don't think so either. And mainly just because of the inclusion of the standby line. Granted, it is broken down a lot, but I will say, if you want to get on this ride, you will be able to get on this ride. Whereas like 3 years ago, that was not the case. You could possibly just not get on this ride unless you paid extra, which is complicated in and of itself. So I actually think this is a pass as well.
Look, I don't know if I'm insulting the average tourist, but I have actually heard instances of like YouTuber, not park YouTubers, but just like popular people that have gone to Galaxy's Edge, rode Millennium Falcon, Smuggler's Run, rode Star Tours. They had no idea what was like. They've never been to Disneyland.
Really?
And then found out like a month or two later, because everyone were commenting like, you did not go on Rise of the Resistance. That was just Star Tours. You didn't do.
How is that possible?
It has happened. I've heard about that. I will say there is no sign. Like I love this like for immersion and everything. There is no. It's a very inconspicuous looking entrance.
That's true.
There.
It's supposed to be a Rebel base.
So if you actually do not do your research, and once again, like let's just say you're just like this is your once in a lifetime trip to Disneyland, and you're not doing your research, looking up what rides they have. You're just walking around the park. You could overlook Rise of the Resistance, go on Smuggler's Run, because that's the big Millennium Falcon sticking out.
How do they even find Galaxy's Edge?
Maybe
there's not a sign for Galaxy's Edge.
Disneyland.
And
no
then
Disney World, but
well, yeah, that was I love Disney's entryway to Galaxy's Edge. I mean, that dunks on Hollywood Studios, which is like an IP dumping ground at this point. But so I'd say that combined with the amount of times this ride could be down, once again, like, are you gonna rely on the average tourist to be like, all right, I'm gonna go get my Ronto wrap and I'm gonna hang around here an hour because that's when it resets because I watched For Your Amusement and listened to Peter and Ryan tell me about it takes about 45 minutes to reset, or they say that's all right and they move on. So in those respects, I do give it a fail.
I hear you actually made some really good points to the point where I actually was like, am I going to change my vote? But I still think most people know this is the ride you're supposed to get on. You see it in the commercials.
It's like, what else is there to do in Hollywood studios? No offense. It's like there's some stage shows. There's Tower of Terror.
I could actually see how
that's true.
There's not many
see
rides in that park.
I could borderline pass it for Hollywood Studios.
For Disneyland, I could see how you could maybe overlook it because Disneyland's lineup is so stacked.
Yeah.
But Hollywood Studios,
they have a total of 9 rides there.
I think it's a pass. I'm going to still pass.
Well, I mean, it's still majority.
It's still majority. But if I change my vote, it could have gone 50-50.
That's true.
So, but anyways, it's passing. That's 1 for 1. Let's move on to test number 2.
Now, if we did this show, 2 years ago, this is an absolute fail for the record.
Oh yeah,
I would have agreed. That would have been true.
Okay,
that's funny because I wrote that test thinking of this being a fail.
Yeah.
Number 2 is the we've already commented on this actually. Number 2, the Leslie Stahl test. Would you be willing to wait 60 minutes for this attraction?
Personally, yes, pass.
I think it's easy. It's an easy pass.
It's one of the few rides that I've been on numerous times at this point and would still wait 60 minutes. There's only a handful of rides that I would do that for.
Like I said, if I saw this at 45 or even in 60 minutes, I might still be like, that's a bargain.
If someone I knew had never been to Disneyland before and this was their like one chance,
you wait an
hour.
I
would say wait 3 hours. I don't care. Like get on the ride.
Well, I wouldn't go that far, but I would say wait.
If there was their one chance in their life to get on Rise of the Resistance.
Okay, I guess, but
by the lightning lane.
By the lightning lane is
yeah. But in this theoretical,
is there a better? Is there a better ride to live vicariously through a new friend going to Disneyland?
There isn't
than this ride.
There is not. If there was a vicarious award, which we should think about putting in because that's pretty good. That this is the ultimate version of it because there's so many twists and turns and reveals that you kind of they lose their effect. Their efficacy kind of just dissipates over time with me personally because I know what happens. That goes back to 100% when I'm on the ride with somebody who hasn't been on it before and does not know what's waiting around the corner because I'm so stoked to just see their mind blown. And it's fantastic. I would tell anybody that to do whatever you have to do to get on this ride, including wait 60 minutes. So that's a pass. Looks like it's a pass all around. Moving on to test number 3. We're 2 for 2. We're on a good. I can't believe this is doing well. Number 3, the smartphone test. Does the queue of this ride have enough to keep you off of your phone?
I don't know, Ryan. You really don't like that cave.
I'm not gonna lie, that cave sucks. But
well, I was gonna say, did you know that there's something called the Disney Play app where you could use your data pad?
I did know about that.
I have used it very briefly.
You could use it. I dislike the data pad personally. I hate it. But there is a storyline for the queue of that ride where you could either pick if you want to be part of the Resistance or you want to be part of the First Order. Oh. And it actually makes the ride more, I wouldn't say more enjoyable, but like once you get to the ride, you've already done all these missions and you understand like what's happening. So it's a good way to kill the time.
Like you help, Finn is up on the Star Destroyer and you actually have to help him get a disguise, which he ends up getting the Stormtrooper disguise, and you help him like reprogram
so it gives you more
droids.
Context to like what's going on if you don't understand.
I have to say,
it keeps you on your phone though.
That's what I was saying. The ironic thing is,
well, the thing is, like, I guess keeping you off the phone in the sense of like, are you so bored that you're like, I'm just gonna, escape this theming and look on Twitter or something. But that's the one problem I have with the Disney Play kind of whole thing is that. Yes, it does add an immersive element in that you are gamifying it, but at the same time, it usually will just take you out of it because you'll see notifications pop up on your phone. You'll kind of you're on your phone. Whereas like this is an obscure reference, but I don't know if you guys have been over to Ghost Town Alive in Knott's Berry Farm.
Oh yeah, we love it.
It's all physical elements you're dealing with. You're dealing with actors. You're dealing with a newspaper. You're not encouraged to look at your phone to play.
They only do that during the summer, right?
They do, but it's something that I wish Galaxy's Edge was more like.
That's what I wish Star Cruiser was more like.
Me too. Me too. Because I went on Byron and I were also on the Star Cruiser, and we found like we're spending so much time with our nose in our phone.
Yeah,
it's odd.
The data pad was sending us Slack messages to go back to the engineering room.
And I'm like, I just talked to that character in person. Why is he messaging me?
Yeah, exactly. But I think overall, this queue, other than the cave part, which I'm not a big fan of, we have the Ray room, we have the Bergara transport, we have the Star Destroyer. There are several elements to this queue that feel like attractions in and of themselves. So
totally,
if we're talking about an immersive queue that's going to keep you off your phone, this is a clear pass for me.
The lines are blurred.
Yeah, pass.
In regards to when the experience starts. And I don't know, even like the cave and stuff, I just like love watching those layers kind of reveal yourself, and you start getting the vibe that you are going on this mission, and
they are satisfying.
I buy into it personally.
However, if you were in like a 3-hour line and you were stuck in that cave portion for like an hour and a half, I can't imagine that's a good time. Granted, it's air conditioned, so it has that.
Be a little claustrophobic.
It's air conditioned. There's benches.
There are benches.
If you're not counting the Ray on as part of the line, that I could fail it, but
I think it's part of the line.
Are we including it?
Yes,
as part of
that's totally part of it. That's part of the queue.
Yeah, because there's even a part where, like, when you're in the Star Destroyer, when they're like, "All right, stand on the red, stand on the blue," they're like telling you where to like actually queue up for the ride. So I do think that is part of the queue, in my opinion, and by that virtue, I think it's a clear pass. And seems like Byron, do you agree with that?
It's a pass for me, easy.
Well, that's 3 for 3. I wonder if this is going to be one of our only 10 for 10s. We'll see. Moving on to test number 4. We're at 3 for 3. This is the Tony Stark test. How innovative is this attraction? Does it push theme park tech forward?
Pass.
I wonder what we're going to vote on this one.
Pass.
We don't even need to explain that. We don't even need to explain ourselves. I think that's a clear pass.
Well, here's the deal. It inherited so many different rides. I'm kidding. It's a definite pass.
Smack the headphones off your head. Pass.
That's flying. I don't. Not many attractions get this strong of a pass.
No, I mean, and even if it did use multiple ride systems that had been used before, no one's ever thought to combine all three. Well, into the same attraction.
The amount of tech that probably went into integrating them all together to work in harmony it's nuts. I mean, I guess this has been used before, but like how fast the batteries have to charge on those ride vehicles.
Yeah.
Every time they offload at the end, because that's what, like, when you get off the ride, it's charging.
Also, the use of practical effects and scale and the animatronics used in this.
Yeah. And like you said, there's like like Peter was saying, like the quote unquote Pepper's Ghost, but it's not Pepper's Ghost. Like they did, I don't know, so many like magician tricks that were probably done, were made possible with new technology.
You could also say that this ride changed how people view, or how Disney views, and maybe just theme parks at large view, what actually is a ride. Where does it begin? Does it begin when you get in line, or does it begin when you get on the ride itself? And I think this changed how people think about attractions. They now think about them as an entire experience, and that in and of itself should pass it. So this is probably one of our easiest passes. Number 5, moving on. We're moving along swimmingly right now. 4 for 4. Test number 5, the Hollywood test. Can this attraction be adapted for the silver screen? Does it have a comprehensible story? Well, it came from the silver screen, so that's a yes. And it does have a comprehensible story, in my opinion, in that there is an actual 3-act structure. You could probably make an argument. You could make a film based off of what's presented in this ride alone, like the story it sells.
Agreed.
I think for me it's a pass.
Pass.
It's a pass.
Pass.
Sick. Moving on. 5 for 5. Let's move on to test number 6. We're at 5 for 5 right now. We are 2 away from world-class pass standing. Test number 6, the Simpson test. How likely is this to be replaced with something new, a la Back to the Future being replaced by The Simpsons? Which we were just, we were talking off camera about that. But yeah, I mean, Disney in general approaches replacing rides very different than Universal Studios does. We've seen Universal Studios replace a bunch of things. And Peter had mentioned, before we started recording this, that if you look at Disneyland, there's plenty of day one attractions there, where at Universal, not so much, despite it opening much later. So I never really thought about it like that. But all that to say, how do we feel about this ride going the distance? How likely do we think this is to be replaced?
I could see eventually them updating the characters, but I think this ride is going to, I would be shocked if they replace this ride before any of us are still alive.
I would agree with that. Like, let's put an arbitrary number here. 25 years from now, is this ride here still?
I think so.
I'd be pretty shocked if it wasn't.
I think so, possibly with different characters, but I think so.
I think with different characters.
They bet so much on the sequel trilogy and like placing Star Wars Galaxy's Edge in the timeline that it is that I don't think, if anything, maybe they'll update it, but I don't even know how they would do that. No.
Let's just for the sake of argument throw a monkey wrench in here. Let's say they stop making Star Wars films, which I don't think they're going to, but if they ever did, then do you think there's a possibility it would be replaced? Because that's usually what is the death knell for other things.
I think Star Wars is always going to, like, even if they stop making films in 10, 15 years, they'll start making films again. You know what I mean? Like, it's,
yeah, I agree.
It's an evergreen.
Yeah, that's true.
It is our modern mythology.
Yeah.
I guess also, I think another good reason of why this probably is going to be there is they just built a Tron ride, and everyone loves Tron, you know. the major hit Tron Legacy.
The soundtrack for Tron is so good, though. I love that soundtrack.
That really makes the experience.
It really rips.
Well, I'm sure we'll talk about that one day,
but I think for this one, I think it's not going to be replaced. It's a pass.
I don't see enough people signing a Bring Back Thunder Ranch petition anytime soon. So, because I think you'd have to take away all of Galaxy's Edge if you were ever to get rid of this ride. I think, like Peter's saying, is like maybe some slight modifications with like characters or updated storylines within the Star Wars universe. But I think in terms of, as Kevin Persia would say, the bones, of the attraction and like it being overall a Star Wars experience with the name Rise of the Resistance, like I don't see it. I think it's a pass.
I think it's a pass too. I just there's no way they dropped the bag of that they spent on this land. Because I agree, if they were to take this ride out, they'd have to start from scratch with that entire portion of the park, and that is just a massive loss. So I think it's a pass. Let's move on. 6 for 6. We're already in debate land, so that's good. Test number 7, the signature moment test. Can this ride hold its own without its signature moment? Is it a one-trick pony? Now, this is interesting because this is another one of those attractions where I don't believe there is a distinct signature moment.
Yeah.
Some candidates, the AT-AT room, you know, that's up there.
Yeah, the reveal.
The drop probably could be up there if you're into thrill. I would say maybe the Kylo pulling you close with the Force and then getting the door blasted off behind him.
You can take your 10th favorite moment on this ride, throw it on pretty much 90% of all other rides, and it would be the number one signature moment of the ride.
Yeah,
that's true. And I think that in and of itself,
even the opening of the, the opening of the transport doors, and you're in the, like, that's a signature moment.
Yeah, that's true.
You're in the Star Destroyer.
You're right. The reveal of the hangar bay.
Yeah, before you even get on a ride vehicle.
I think, how many rides can you say that, oh yeah, this moment in the line is better than anything that happens on any ride in your park?
Apart from Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway with the screen blowing out, you know.
That's a good one.
Yeah, it's like pretty much that in this.
No, I think this is another clear pass. Wow, is this the first ride to ever go 7 for 7 in the first 7 tests?
No, because Mickey and Minnie's got 100%.
Oh, you're right. We did get 100%. That's true. We do love Mickey. Anyways, that's 7 for 7. It is already achieved world-class standing, but we're gonna clap for that, I guess. All right, let's clap for that. But in the interest of seeing how high this baby could fly, we're gonna keep going, see where it sits in the annals of other theme park attractions. The last 3 tests. Let's see if we could go 10 for 10. Number 8. I get embarrassed every time I say this test name, and I'm suffering from it now. Okay, number 8, the premature detraculation test. Does this ride finish too soon?
No.
It's a very satisfying ride.
18 minutes, baby.
18 minutes is a long time. I can't imagine anyone's getting off this and being like, "That's it." You'd be an insane person.
And that climax of. Yeah, that climax of the drop, and then you got your eyes on Beck. You found Beck, and then R5 gets, he's a hero, and then you get off, and you're like, so happy. It's like the best ending.
It's incredible. I can't imagine. It's one of the rare attractions where I don't think I would like. There are some rides where I don't think it finishes too soon, but I also think, I could use it in a minute or two. Like I would add some stuff. I don't think there's anything I would add to this. Maybe I'm just not creative enough. I just think it's perfect.
And then it spits you out back on Batuu seamlessly, and then it kind of feels like your adventure just continues from there.
Yeah.
It really feels like it's still going as you walk off the ride.
It's incredible. I mean, this is another pass for me.
It's about as big a pass as you can get.
I'm going to assume it's a pass for you two.
That's a pass.
Pass.
Yeah.
Well, 8 for 8. Here we go. Test number 9, the exit hall test. Do you see people be physically excited getting off of this ride? Do they have that bounce in their step? Are they laughing? Are they clapping? Are they, excited? An example.
Personally, almost every time that I've ridden this ride, the entire car of people is clapping.
I was about to say.
Everyone's so excited. The cast members are clapping. You're clapping. You feel so accomplished.
I will say that, in this particular case, like Kitra just said, 9 times out of 10, and I really do mean that, people clap at the end of this ride just because they're so blown away. And that has got to feel amazing. Could you imagine if you were the Imagineer who designed this ride and you could just sit there and watch standing ovation after standing ovation all day long?
Yeah.
It would go to your head.
We actually got off. We actually got off this ride one time, and Scott Trowbridge was there.
Holy shit!
Like
he was
just
watching
watching
people. Yeah,
people getting. I was like,
we shook his hand. We're like, thank you. I was probably crying.
Oh my God. That guy probably goes to the park anytime he's having a bad day or he just feeling low on his self-worth. And he's just I'm going to go stand at the exit of Rise of the Resistance.
Yeah, just watch thousands of people ride this wave of stoke out of the ride into the rest of the park.
It's incredible. I think it might be one of the highest passers of this test as well. So that's, it seems like it's a pass all around.
Yes.
It's a pass.
All right, 9 for 9. Moving on to test number 10. Can we achieve another perfect score? It's only been done one time on this podcast. This is the fine... Oh, actually, this is going to be interesting. This is the fine wine test. Has this ride aged well? Has your opinion of the attraction appreciated or depreciated since your first experience? Or, if it's a newer ride, do you believe it will age well? Now, this is the only one where I could see some arguments. I'm gonna be a coward and I'm gonna throw it to you guys first. I'll throw it to you first.
I could see some people that didn't like Rise of Skywalker or didn't like where the sequel trilogy went be like, I don't like it because I don't like these characters. But for me, it's still as good as the day I first went on.
I agree.
I don't think it's gotten better. It's definitely gotten worse because the guns don't, the blaster things don't fire.
No.
But I don't think, I think it's about the same. What do you?
I agree with you. But I loved the sequel trilogy, so I'm not the best judge on this.
Well, when we're looking at it from just I always get wary of rides with this test when it comes to rides that are heavily, heavily reliant on tech of the time. And how much of me enjoying the attraction is the, very, state of the art tech that I'm seeing, and how much of it is actually the storytelling that's happening. And in this particular case, I actually think it is just as much storytelling as it is the tech. I'm gonna pass it to you, Byron.
Coward. All right. Here, this one's tough because, I feel like it's near impossible to I will never have that same rush that I had the first time I got off this ride. And almost every time I've been on it since, there is something missing from that first time that I went on it that isn't functioning. And then I will say, and this is more like a personal choice.
The tension.
I think that there are other Disney attractions that that hit me harder emotionally than this one. I think this is I always say this is extremely, extremely impressive, and it does feel like you're going on your own Star Wars adventure. I don't think any other ride pulls that off the same way. But there are other rides that I have not brought up in this show where my appreciation grows for them because that emotion still always hits the same, if not bigger, every single time I ride it, and I don't get that with Rise of the Resistance.
Oh, I see. Are you going
But
where I think you're going?
I'm going.
I feel like I'm the opposite.
I'm gonna go. Yeah, I'm gonna go with, and I'm also, I could only imagine that in the years to come, there are other rides that are gonna come out that are gonna have these bells and whistles on a technological standpoint, and I still think Rise of the Resistance will be near the top in that regard. I think it's going to be it's going to take a long time for any ride to best it in terms of all the things that it does. But I don't think it'll be as big of a standout going forward. And without that emotional punch that I have on other Disney attractions, I have to give it a fail. And this is also, once again, like, it is the first time I went on this ride, it was absolutely mind-blowing. And it's just, I don't know how you top that. It's almost like it was so good the first time I went on this ride.
The source material is emotional. Do you know what I mean? Like the source material, especially what it's trying to mimic in the source material of it being the third act.
Yes.
We're trying to escape the Death Star kind of thing. There's not really that emotional bit. So I don't think it's like trying to mimic. My argument is it's not trying to mimic that of the Star Wars movies. It's trying to place yourself in the action adventure excitement.
Yes.
Part of that. And I don't think it could be done any better. I think
I would agree with that. I hear what Byron is saying as well. I will say this. I don't want to put my wife on blast, but she does not care for this ride, though. It's not that she doesn't care for it. She likes it, but she's like, I don't need to go on that many more times. Like, she went on it the first 3-4 times, and she was like, it's an amazing ride, technological feat. I was completely blown away by some of the twists and turns and the reveals. But once that is gone and you kind of know what's coming, all you really have to fall back on is just what Byron was saying. Does it have an emotional reaction for me? Is there a story there that moves me? And for her, I bet you she would say no here. So I could see where Byron's coming from. Oh man, this is tough. What do you think? What do you think, Kitra?
Did she not clap when she? For me, it's a pass. I agree with Peter.
Oh man, so that means it falls on me then. You can make it 100%, man.
I will say, I think in 30 years, you go down the line in 30 years, and you ask someone, what are the top 5 theme park rides in the world? I think this will be one of those top 5 in 30 years.
Oh, man, I don't think so. But that's also because I hope that we just keep getting crazier and crazier rides. But you could, oh my God.
I mean, I agree with that. I just don't think this particular this test for me.
Okay, let's use it through a framing device of another ride we've talked about. Like, let's say you look at something like Space Mountain. It's not the most technologically advanced. It was at the time. But yet it still stands the test of time and is a bona fide classic. And I wonder why that is. And part of it is because maybe it's part of the yesterworld of Disneyland lore and has maintained its status since all that time. And it's seen as a classic in the sense of like, you can't imagine Disneyland without it. Whereas Rise of the Resistance was something that was clearly added to add attendance and isn't inherently to its core Disney. So I could see how that, I can't. And the thing is,
no, I see what you're saying.
I can't see Peter and Kitra's face, so like I could just hear just like them breathing.
The sighs.
I was like,
heavy breathing.
And I don't know what to do here because well,
Ryan, here's the other question. If we both give it a pass and you guys both give it a fail, what does that do?
I think we would have to say that's
50-50.
I think that might be a 9.5. That might have to be a 9.5. I think we've never really had 4 people on, so like I think that would have to be a 9.5, or we would have to ask Matt Rial, who's never been on the ride, which is not gonna. We have to phone a friend here. I think. Okay, let me just give me a second here. Just sorry, I know you guys are delayed. Just give me a second.
You know, you set yourself up. You passed it to every other person on this podcast, thinking you could escape your fate, and you just made it worse.
Well, I thought you were
all the spotlights on you.
I thought you were gonna pass it, Byron. I didn't think it was gonna fall on me.
But I just want to say, anybody that's listening to this podcast, you're missing out on Ryan squirming in his seat. It is so entertaining right now. You should be watching this on YouTube.
Okay. The emotional part about it. I will say it did evoke emotion for me when I first went on it, but that was also because I'm a major Star Wars fan. And so to see all of the things that I'd watched as a kid be so beautifully realized in person really did get an emotional reaction out of me, because it was like the perfect sense of nostalgia mixed with thrill.
The first time.
Does it really matter? Does it really matter?
You invented this test. You invented the test.
I think I think if I'm being honest with myself, I think there is a fair amount of it that is reliant on the tech. And I think Byron is right in that over time, rides will exist like this. It may take a while, but when they do, will this still be seen as something that stands the test of time? Oh God, I think I'm gonna go fail. I think I'm gonna fail it.
Wow.
I will say, and I already said this earlier, but like going back to Pooh's Honey Hunt, that ride is how old? And I still think it lives up. So like in my mind, I'm like, this ride.
But what
stands
tech?
the test of time.
Not to keep this going, but what tech on this ride do you think in 20 years you're gonna look back and be like, track? I picture you being like the kid in Back to the Future 2 and be like, you had to use your hand. It's like a baby's toy. Like what part of this ride is that? Because I already feel like trackless rides are overused.
I would agree with that. Yeah, I would. But
that's not the wow factor of this ride to me. Is not the trackless. I don't know.
No, wait, no. Let me. wait, hold on. No, that's actually a good point, because
the wow factor me is the cannon's no longer working.
No, the thing about it, like there are how many trackless dark ride vehicles already out there? There's at least 5 that I could think of off the top of my head. There's only going to be more, and yet this is still the superior one. And I think that's because the pacing is incredible. The reveals from show scene to show scene are spectacular. The scale is unmatched. I'm changing it. I'm going to pass it. 100%.
I'm
going to pass it.
Did we guilt him into
No,
doing this?
I don't think so. I just think you made a good argument. And that's honestly the purpose of the guest on this show, which is to fight for the honor of the ride that they are representing. And I needed you to say there are already a bunch of trackless dark ride vehicles. And I did not think about it from that perspective. And I think the storytelling and the pacing does push it through, and I think that will stand the test of time. So I feel confident in passing it. I'm gonna pass it. I'm passing it. 10 for 10. 10 for 10.
It's an 100% attraction.
Oh, thank God. That was truly stressful for like.
Yeah, that was the worst. That was the worst you felt off giving any answer. To this,
I think I got caught in my own web. I really did think you were gonna pass it. I did not think it was gonna fall on me. Anyways. That does it for this episode of For Your Amusement. Thank you all for listening or for watching if you're watching this on YouTube. And if you're listening, make sure you subscribe and rate the podcast 5 stars. That does help us keep doing this silly little show. And on YouTube, please subscribe. Also, thank you guys, Ordinary Adventures, Peter and Kitra. Thank you for coming on and gracing us with your presence. Is there anything that you guys would like to plug right now before we end this thing?
Right now, we have a video series where we went to Japan, we went to Tokyo, Japan, and we went to Tokyo Disney Sea, which is the greatest theme park.
So if you want to see Pooh's Honey Hunt, we'll show it in our videos. You should subscribe and watch.
Yeah. Also, I edited a 4-hour documentary on the Galactic Star Cruiser. So if you didn't get to go on it,
check that out.
And if you have 4 hours of your time, watch it.
It nearly broke our computer to export and upload.
Wow. I'm excited to watch
but
it.
He did a really good job on it, and
We got Ordinary Adventure fans in the office, namely Adam Bianchi. He loves you guys. But
we said thank you.
So go ahead and check out their content if you haven't. We'll put the link of that in the description, or if you're watching this, we will have it on screen right now.
Mine is just at Kitra for everything, and then Ord Adventures for everything.
And at Peter Sciretta, which you'll probably have to see on screen because it's complicated to spell.
Yeah, I get that. And then I'm at Ryan Bergara and at Ryan S. Bergara on Twitter, at Ryan Bergara on Instagram. There's a Ryan Bergara in the Philippines. There's only one other Ryan Bergara in the world. He took the name.
What the heck?
I have to kill him. Anyways, Byron's at Byron A. Marin, and then we're at FYI Pod and everything. But that's that. Thank you guys for coming on, and thank you all for watching. We'll see you guys next time. And maybe we'll have another 10 for 10. But for now,